The night was silent, and the stars hung above the alien city like frozen sparks. The air smelled of chemicals from the tall buildings, and the streets were wet from a light evening rain. On the ground outside the clinic, something shocking was happening. Two alien doctors, tall and thin, dragged a small alien girl out of the door. She was weak, shivering, and barely awake. Her eyes were half open, glowing faintly in the dark. They did not place her down with care. Instead, they dropped her roughly, like she was a bag of trash. One of the doctors shook his head and muttered, "No point wasting more medicine on her. She is broken. Let nature take her." The other agreed, locking the clinic doors behind them. The sound of the door slamming was final, like a judgment. The girl tried to move her fingers, but her body was too weak. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. She was still alive, but just barely. The cold ground under her skin stole what little warmth she had left. A soft whimper escaped her lips, but no one inside cared enough to listen. Not far away, a human was walking alone. He had just finished a late job in the city, carrying his jacket on his shoulder. His boots splashed softly in the puddles as he walked. He was tired, but his sharp eyes noticed something unusual ahead. At first, he thought it was a bundle of clothes someone had thrown out. But then, as he came closer, he saw the faint movement of a hand. He stopped. His heart skipped a beat. Lying there on the ground was not trash, it was a girl. She was small, her skin pale with strange patterns running across it like glowing veins. Her clothes were torn, and her face looked drained of life. She looked fragile, like she could vanish at any moment. The human's first thought was that she needed help. He rushed forward and bent down beside her. "Hey, are you all right?" he whispered. The girl's lips moved slightly, but no sound came. Her eyes fluttered, trying to focus on him. For a second, he saw fear in her gaze, as if she expected him to step back, to abandon her like the others had. He looked up and noticed the clinic door. The bright symbol above showed it was a place for healing. His anger rose. Why was a patient lying outside in the rain? He stood and banged on the door. "Hey, someone's out here. She needs help." The door opened a crack, and one of the alien doctors looked out. His face was calm, cold, without feeling. "That one is beyond saving," the doctor said flatly. "She is a defect. Our care is not for her kind. Move on, human." The human clenched his fists. "She's alive," he shouted. "She's breathing. She needs care." The doctor's eyes narrowed. "Our medicine is not wasted on the weak. Leave her. If you are wise, you will not get involved." With that, the door shut again, the lock clicking firmly. For a moment, the human just stood there, shocked. He could not believe what he had heard. A doctor's job was to save lives, yet here they were, throwing away someone like garbage. His heart burned with anger, but also with something stronger, determination. He turned back to the girl. Her breathing was ragged, her body trembling. If he left her here, she would die within the hour. He could feel it. He knelt again and brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. "I won't leave you," he whispered softly, though he doubted she understood his words. The rain began to fall harder, cold drops hitting his skin. He quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around her small frame. She shivered inside it, but at least she was covered now. Gently, he slid his arms under her body and lifted her up. She was lighter than he expected, fragile as if her bones could break with the wrong move. She gave a soft sound, a weak protest, but then her head rested against his chest. Her glowing eyes closed, as if she had decided to trust him in her last moments. That trust cut deeper into his heart than any words could. He looked once more at the clinic. The lights inside were bright, shadows of doctors moving behind the windows, ignoring the girl they had left outside. His jaw tightened. If they would not help, then he would. He didn't know how, but he couldn't just walk away. The city streets stretched ahead, empty and cold. He adjusted his hold on her and began to walk quickly, his mind racing. Where could he take her? Not to human hospitals. They had no idea how to treat aliens, and clearly alien doctors had no intention of saving her. Still, he couldn't shake the thought. Life was life. She was breathing, her heart was beating, and that was enough reason to fight for her, even if she wasn't human. As he moved through the rain, he whispered again, "Stay with me. You're not done yet." His voice was low but steady, carrying a promise he didn't fully understand himself. Behind him, the clinic door stayed closed. In front of him, the unknown waited. But one thing was certain. The human had made his choice. He would not let her die abandoned on a cold street. The human carried the fragile alien girl through the rain-soaked streets, his boots splashing in puddles with every hurried step. Her body felt weightless in his arms, yet the responsibility weighed heavily on his chest. She was breathing, but every breath seemed like it might be her last. Her head rested against him, her skin colder than the night air. His mind spun in circles. Where could he take her? The alien doctors had already abandoned her. If they, with all their advanced tools and glowing machines, had given up, what chance did he have? He thought of the human hospitals, but he quickly dismissed the idea. They had never treated aliens before. They wouldn't even let him walk inside with her. She would die on a hospital bed while people argued over rules and paperwork. The streets were mostly empty, only a few lights shining from windows above. His heart raced as he tried to think faster. Every second counted. He remembered the look in her eyes before she fainted, fear mixed with fragile hope. It was enough to make his decision clear. He couldn't let her fade. Then, a thought struck him. It was crazy. It was desperate. But maybe it was the only way. At the edge of the city lived an old vet. The man had once treated animals of all kinds, big creatures from farms, little pets from homes, even strange beasts brought in by alien traders. The human had heard stories of the vet, a man with steady hands who could heal what others declared hopeless. He had no glowing machines, no advanced medicines, only experience and a stubborn refusal to let a life go easily. The human stopped under a broken streetlight and tightened his grip on the girl. Could he really take her there? She wasn't an animal. She was something more. Someone. But the thought refused to leave his head. The alien doctors had already proven they didn't care. Maybe the vet would. He whispered to himself, if no one else will fight for her, then maybe he will. The girl stirred faintly in his arms, a weak sound escaping her lips. It wasn't a word, just a painful murmur. But to him, it felt like an answer. Yes, keep going. Don't give up. He took a sharp turn, heading away from the bright center of the city and toward the darker outskirts. The further he went, the quieter the streets became. He felt eyes on him sometimes, other aliens staring from shadows, confused at the sight of a human carrying one of their own. Some sneered, some shook their heads, but none stopped him. They didn't care. He quickened his pace, ignoring their stares. Every minute she survived in his arms felt like a small victory. Every breath she took was a reminder that she wasn't gone yet. He pulled his jacket tighter around her, shielding her from the seats. Old rain. Finally, he reached the old building. The sign was half broken, the letters faded, but it still read, Veterinary Clinic. The place smelled faintly of hay and disinfectant, a strange mix that somehow felt safe. A single dim light glowed inside. He pushed the door open with his shoulder. The bell above jingled weakly, and a tired voice came from the back. We're closed. Bring your pet tomorrow. The human stepped inside, dripping rain onto the floor. His voice shook, but he forced it steady. It's not an animal. It's her. Please. She's dying. An old man emerged, his hair gray and his hands rough from years of work. His eyes widened when he saw what the human carried. The alien girl looked so fragile, her skin glowing faintly under the clinic light, her breath shallow. The vet froze. Son, I don't treat her kind. This isn't what I do. The human stepped forward, desperation clear in his face. I know, but you treat life. That's what matters. They left her to die, the doctors, her own people. You can't do the same. The vet's lips tightened, his brow furrowing. He had seen wounded animals crawl through his door, some ripped apart, some starved, some poisoned. He had always fought for them, always tried, but this was different. This was an intelligent being, a girl abandoned by her own kind. His hands trembled slightly as he looked at her. Even if I try, he whispered, I don't have their medicines. My tools are simple. My methods, rough. She may not survive. The human's eyes hardened. She won't survive if no one tries. Please, don't let her die in my arms. The room fell silent, except for the faint sound of the girl's breathing. The vet stared at her small body, then at the human's face, so determined, so unwilling to let go. Finally, he gave a long sigh. "Put her on the table," the vet said quietly. "We'll see what can be done." Relief washed over the human as he carefully laid her on the old wooden table. She looked smaller there, surrounded by bottles, bandages, and tools that seemed too simple for such a delicate life. The vet rolled up his sleeves, his hands no longer trembling but steady, like they had always been when life was on the line. He touched her wrist, feeling for a pulse. Weak, but there. He checked her wounds, muttering to himself. Infection, dehydration, damaged tissue. He shook his head. The doctors did nothing for her. Nothing. The human stood close, his fists clenched. He didn't understand all the terms, but he understood the tone, anger, mixed with determination. The vet finally looked up. His eyes no longer carried doubt. "All right," he said firmly. "We fight for her. But if we do this, you stay. You hold her hand. She'll need something to keep her here." The human nodded instantly. He reached for her hand, holding it gently, feeling its faint warmth. The alien girl didn't open her eyes, but her fingers twitched, as if responding to his touch. The vet gathered his tools and prepared to begin. The human whispered to her softly, his voice steady. "You're not alone anymore. Stay with me." Outside, the rain kept falling, but inside that small clinic, a desperate fight for life was about to begin, one that no one had expected. The old vet stood frozen for a moment, staring at the alien girl lying on his table. Her chest moved up and down so faintly that he almost thought it might stop at any second. Her skin glowed with strange blue patterns that pulsed weakly, fading in and out like a dying light bulb. He had seen many creatures in his long years, horses, dogs, even exotic beasts brought from distant colonies, but never something like this. His hands hovered above her, unsure. I don't know her anatomy," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Her organs could be arranged differently. What heals a human or an animal might kill her." The human standing beside him tightened his grip on her small hand. He leaned forward, his voice steady but urgent. "Then be careful, watch, adjust, but please don't stop. She needs you." The vet looked at him, surprised by the fire in his eyes. This wasn't the face of someone handing over a stray. This was someone ready to fight, to risk anything. The vet felt something stir inside him, a memory of younger days, when he too had been full of that kind of stubborn courage. He pulled on gloves and bent closer, his eyes sharpened as the instincts of a healer took over. First, he checked her pulse, weak but there. Then her breathing, shallow, irregular. He pressed gently against her chest and heard faint wheezing sounds. "Her lungs are drowning," he muttered. "Fluid buildup. If we don't clear it, she'll suffocate." The human's heart pounded. "Can you fix it?" The vet frowned. "I'll try." He set to work, moving with quick, precise hands. He inserted a thin tube, pulling out liquid that smelled bitter and metallic. The alien girl gave a weak cough, her small body jerking. The human flinched but didn't let go of her hand. Her eyelids fluttered, and for the briefest moment, her glowing eyes opened, confused and scared. "She's awake," the human whispered, leaning closer. "You're safe. Stay with us." But her eyes rolled back, and she went limp again. The vet's brow furrowed deeper. She's fighting, but barely. She's malnourished. Her veins are collapsing. She hasn't eaten or drunk properly in days, maybe longer. He opened a drawer, pulling out a bag of fluids meant for dehydrated animals. This isn't perfect for her species, but it might keep her alive. The human nodded quickly. "Do it." As the vet inserted the line, his eyes caught on her skin again. The glowing blue veins shifted when touched, as if reacting to his tools. He pulled his hand back in shock. "Her Bolshers. Die. It's alive in ways I don't understand. It's rejecting and repairing at the same time. I've never seen anything like it." The human leaned closer. "What does that mean?" The vet shook his head slowly. "It means the alien doctors weren't just careless. They gave up because they didn't want to figure her out. They looked at her and decided she wasn't worth the effort." His voice trembled with anger now. "But she is alive, and as long as she is, she deserves every chance." The human's jaw tightened. "That's all I needed to hear." They worked together, hour after hour, through the dripping sound of rain outside. The vet stitched small tears in her skin where infection had spread, cleaned wounds, and gave her careful doses of medicine that he adjusted by instinct. Every so often, the alien girl would twitch or let out a soft sound, proof that she was still fighting. The human never left her side. He whispered softly, telling her stories, anything to keep her spirit tied to the world. "You're stronger than they think. You're not done yet. I'm here. I won't leave." His words were simple, but they filled the silent room with something powerful: hope. At one point, the vet stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. His hands trembled slightly. "This is beyond medicine. Her body is something I can't fully understand, and yet..." He looked at the human with wide eyes. "She's responding. The fluids, the stitches, the treatment, it's working." The human's breath caught. He looked at her face. Her color wasn't as pale. Her breathing had grown steadier. Her glowing veins pulsed stronger now, as if a faint life force had been reignited. The vet whispered, almost in disbelief, "I don't know if I'm saving her, or if she's saving herself, but I've never seen a creature cling to life like this." For the first time since he found her, the human allowed himself a small smile. Then, "She's a fighter, just like us." The old vet sat back in his chair, staring at the girl, shaking his head slowly. "They called her broken, but broken things don't fight this hard. They don't hold on through pain this deep." The human squeezed her hand gently. "That's because she's not broken. She was just waiting for someone to believe in her." The room fell silent again, the sound of steady beeping and dripping water filling the air. The alien girl's chest rose and fell in a rhythm that was no longer fragile, but determined. She was still weak, still at the edge, but now there was something different about her. She was alive, and she was not giving up. The vet leaned back, muttering to himself, Maybe life doesn't need to be understood to be saved. Maybe it just needs someone stubborn enough to keep trying." The human looked down at her, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we'll keep trying, until she's back on her feet." The vet stared at the human for a long time, then nodded. "I've treated many creatures in my life, but I've never been shocked like this. This girl, she might change everything." The human glanced at the alien girl's face, pale but peaceful now. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was clear. Tonight, in this small clinic, a decision had been made. They would fight for her, no matter the cost. And for the first time since being thrown into the cold street, the alien girl wasn't alone. The small clinic was filled with silence, broken only by the soft hum of the vet's old machines and the faint sound of rain outside. The alien girl lay on the wooden table, her glowing veins pulsing weakly. Every breath she took sounded fragile, like a whisper ready to fade. The human sat close, holding her cold hand, whispering words she could not fully hear but perhaps could feel in her heart. The old vet leaned over her, his eyes sharp and focused. He had treated many creatures in his life, but never had he fought this hard for one. His hands moved quickly, cleaning wounds, stitching tears, and adjusting fluids. Sweat dripped from his forehead, but he didn't slow down. He muttered to himself, analyzing every sign of her strange body. Her blood flows differently. Her organs, they shift when touched. This is not like anything I know, but she's alive. That's all that matters. The human watched every move with a pounding heart. He didn't understand the vet's techniques, but he understood the risk. One mistake, one wrong move, and the girl could slip away forever. His grip on her hand tightened as if his strength could anchor her soul to the world. The alien girl stirred faintly. A weak groan escaped her lips. Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment, her strange, glowing eyes opened. They locked onto the human's face. Confusion, fear, and then something softer. A question, as if she wondered why he was still there, why he hadn't left her like the others. He leaned closer, his voice low and steady. "I'm here. I won't leave you. You're safe." Her lips parted, but no sound came. She tried to speak, but only a faint sigh escaped before her eyes closed again. Yet even that brief moment lit a fire in the human's chest. She was still fighting. The vet injected a dose of medicine, his hands steady. He looked at the human. Her body is rejecting infection, but barely. She has strength inside her, more than anyone thought. But it's not enough, not yet. She needs something more to hold on to. The human glanced at her face, pale but peaceful. He brushed a strand of damp hair from her forehead. Then we give her a reason. We give her hope. Hours passed like minutes. The vet worked tirelessly, and the human never moved from her side. He whispered stories from his life, about the rivers on Earth, about the sky filled with birds, about music that carried through the night. He didn't know if she understood, but he saw her fingers twitch sometimes when he spoke, like she was clinging to his voice. At one point, her breathing grew shallow again, weaker than before. The vet's eyes widened. "She's slipping." He quickly pressed his ear to her chest, listening. Her heartbeat was faint, fading. "If we lose her now," his words trailed off. The human's chest tightened with panic. He leaned down close to her ear. "No, stay with me. You're not alone. You hear me? You are not alone." His voice broke, but his grip on her hand never wavered. For a terrifying moment, it seemed her chest had stopped. The room froze. The vet's hands moved frantically, pressing, stimulating, trying to pull her back. The human held his breath, his heart thundering in his chest. Then, suddenly, her body jerked and she gasped. Air rushed into her lungs. Her glowing veins lit brighter for a moment, pulsing strong before calming again. The human let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through him. The vet slumped back in his chair, whispering, "She wants to live. She's not ready to let go." The human smiled faintly, though his eyes were wet. "That's it. Keep fighting. I'm right here." Through the long night, they fought together. Vet, human, and alien girl. The vet with his skill, the human with his unbreakable spirit, and the girl with her hidden strength. Every small sign of improvement felt like a miracle. Her breathing grew steadier. Her skin lost some of its pale color. Her pulse, once faint, grew stronger with every hour. The human never let go of her hand, not even once. His whispers never stopped. "You're stronger than they know. You're not broken. You're worth saving." At last, as dawn began to break, light spilled through the old clinic window. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside silent and still. Inside, the girl's chest rose and fell in a calm rhythm. She was still weak, but no longer on the edge of death. The vet leaned back, exhausted but proud. "She's stable. For now. I don't know if she'll recover fully, but she has a chance. A real chance." The human looked at the girl's peaceful face, his chest heavy with relief. That's all she needs. A chance. He brushed her hand gently, whispering one last promise before closing his tired eyes. "You'll never be abandoned again. Not while I'm here." And for the first time since being cast aside by her own people, the alien girl was not just alive, she was safe, because someone had finally fought for her life. The morning sun crept slowly through the cracked window of the old vet's clinic. The light fell gently across the alien girl's face, pale but alive. Her chest rose and fell with steady breaths now, no longer the fragile gasps of the night before. The human sat slumped in a chair beside her, his head resting against the table, still holding her hand. He hadn't slept, not even for a moment, but exhaustion didn't matter. She was alive. The vet moved quietly around the room, checking supplies, mixing small doses of medicine, cleaning tools stained from the night's work. His eyes softened as he looked at the two of them, the human who refused to give up and the alien girl who refused to die. He muttered under his breath, "Strange how the universe works. Sometimes it takes a stranger to see the value in a life everyone else throws away." A soft sound broke the silence. The human lifted his head quickly. The girl's lips were moving. Her eyes flickered open, glowing faintly, weak but aware. Her gaze drifted to the human, and for the first time, her voice, fragile as cracked glass, whispered, "Why?" The human leaned closer, his heart pounding. "Why what?" Her eyes shimmered with confusion. "Why? Didn't you leave me?" The words hit him like a blade. He saw the depth of her pain in those glowing eyes, the memory of being abandoned, discarded, left to die. He swallowed hard, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "Because no one deserves to be left like that, not you, not anyone." Her lips trembled, a tear, small and bright, slipped from the corner of her eye. She whispered again, "They said, I have no value, broken, useless." Her voice cracked and the words carried not just weakness, but years of torment. The human's jaw tightened, He squeezed her hand gently, careful not to hurt her fragile skin. They lied. You're not broken. You're here. You're alive. And that means you matter. The vet, standing in the corner, listened quietly. His heart, hardened from years of watching lives slip away, softened at the sight. He stepped forward and spoke gently. Child, strength isn't about being perfect. It's about surviving when no one thinks you can, and you've done that. The girl blinked, her tears shimmering in the morning light. No one had ever spoken to her this way, not her doctors, not her people. For the first time, she felt warmth that wasn't just from her body healing. It was from the voices around her, telling her she was worth saving. She tried to lift her hand, weak and trembling, and pointed faintly at the door. They gave up. Why? The human's face darkened. Because they couldn't see what I see. They only saw weakness. I see someone fighting harder than anyone I've ever known. Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles, faint but real. You fought for me. The words pierced the human's heart. He nodded firmly. And I'll keep fighting, as long as it takes. The vet cleared his throat, looking at the human with a hint of admiration. You know, he said slowly, you've done more for her spirit than I have with all my tools. Sometimes a hand to hold is the strongest medicine. The human glanced at him, then back at the girl. He brushed her damp hair gently from her forehead. Rest now. You're safe. Her eyes grew heavy, but before closing them again, she whispered words so faint he almost didn't hear. I thought no one would ever want me. The human's heart twisted at the confession. He bent close, his voice soft but firm. I want you alive. That's enough to start with. The vet turned away, pretending to busy himself with supplies, but his eyes burned. He had seen lives saved, and he had seen lives lost. But rarely had he seen the power of simple human defiance, of refusing to let go. Hours passed. The girl drifted in and out of sleep. But every time she woke, she found the human still there, still holding her hand. Slowly, her body responded to the care. The fluids gave her strength. The stitched wounds began to heal, and her breathing grew stronger. But even more than that, her spirit responded to the simple truth she had never known. She had value. When the vet stepped out briefly to gather more supplies, the girl whispered again, her eyes on the human. What? If they come back? The human's grip on her hand tightened. Then they'll see you're not weak, and if they try to take you, they'll have to go through me first. Her glowing eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise. No one had ever said such words for her. She gave a shaky laugh that turned into a cough, but even then, her face brightened. You're strange, human. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but I know this. Your life is worth something. Don't ever believe otherwise. Her eyes closed again, but her lips curved in a faint smile. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like discarded trash. For the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere, in the hands of someone who refused to let go. The human leaned back, exhaustion heavy in his body, but relief warming his chest. The whispers of her despair had become whispers of hope, and he promised himself that as long as he breathed, she would never hear those cruel words, worthless, broken, useless, ever again. Outside, the city stirred with life, unaware of the miracle happening in the old vet's clinic. A girl once abandoned had begun to believe she was worth saving, and that belief was only the beginning. The vet's clinic was quiet, the smell of herbs and disinfectant mixing with the morning air. The alien girl lay resting, her fragile body wrapped in soft blankets. Her glowing veins no longer flickered faintly, they pulsed steady, like a heartbeat of light. The human sat beside her as always, his eyes heavy with exhaustion but sharp with determination. The girl stirred, opening her glowing eyes slowly. She looked around the small room before her gaze settled on the human. For a moment she said nothing. Then, in a low voice, she whispered, "You should not have saved me." The human blinked in shock. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes shimmered, filled with sadness. "You do not know what I am." The vet, who was preparing medicine at the counter, turned his head slightly. His ears caught the heaviness in her voice. He didn't interrupt, but his hands stilled, listening. The human leaned forward, refusing to let go of her hand. I know enough. You were dying, and now you're alive. That's all I need to know. But the girl shook her head weakly. Her thin fingers trembled as she gripped his hand tighter. No, there's more. You should know the truth, or else you will be in danger. The human's chest tightened. Tell me then. Her lips quivered as if the words were heavy to speak. Finally, she whispered, I was born wrong. The vet frowned deeply but stayed silent. She continued, her voice breaking. In my people's eyes, I am a defect. My body, not strong enough, not pure enough to serve the Empire. When a child like me is born, the doctors decide if they are fit to live. If not, her voice cracked, and tears welled in her eyes. They are left to die. The human felt anger rising in his chest like fire. His jaw clenched, and his grip on her hand grew firmer. That's not wrong. That's cruelty. That's murder. The girl turned her head away, shame filling her expression. It is our law. The weak cannot remain. They say it makes us strong as a people. Her voice trembled as she added, that is why the doctors gave up on me. To them, I was not a patient. I was a mistake. The vet slammed his hand against the table, startling them both. His old voice shook with fury. Mistake? She's alive, breathing, fighting harder than half the soldiers I've seen. If they call this weakness, then they're blind fools. The human nodded fiercely. They're wrong. You're not broken. You're proof of strength. You survived what they wanted to destroy. The girl blinked at them, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. You really believe that? The human leaned closer, his voice steady and full of fire. Yes, I don't care what they say. You are alive, and that's all the value you need. They threw you away, but I won't. Not ever. For a moment, silence filled the room except for the sound of her soft sobs. The vet stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Child, you should know this. Life is not measured by laws or by cold doctors. Life is measured by the will to keep breathing, even when the world wants you gone. And you have that will. I saw it last night. You fought harder than anyone I've treated. The girl closed her eyes, her tears soaking the pillow. All my life, I believed their words, that I was nothing, that I should be ashamed of living. But now, her voice broke, but she forced the words out. Now I hear you, and I want to believe you. The human squeezed her hand gently, his eyes soft but fierce. Then believe, because I'm not letting you go back to them. You're not their defect. You're mine to protect now. Her glowing eyes opened wide, filled with surprise. Yours? He nodded, his voice firm. Yes, you belong with people who see your worth, not those who throw you away. And if they try to take you back, they'll have to fight me first. For a long moment, she stared at him, searching his face for any sign of weakness or lie. But all she found was truth, raw and unshakable. Slowly, her lips curved into a trembling smile. Then, maybe I am not broken. The human smiled faintly. No, you never were. The vet turned away, his eyes misty, pretending to busy himself again. But in his heart, he knew he had just witnessed something more powerful than medicine. He had witnessed the healing of a spirit long crushed by cruelty. The girl's breathing grew calmer, steadier, as if a weight had been lifted from her chest. Her hand clung to the human's, no longer from fear of dying, but from the fragile hope of living. But even in that moment of peace, a shadow lingered in her words. If her people discovered she was alive, if they found her with a human, what would they do? The human glanced at the door, his jaw tight. He knew the answer. They would come for her. And when they did, he would be ready. For now, though, he brushed a strand of her hair gently and whispered, Rest. You're safe here. Safe with me. Her eyes closed, her lips curving faintly. For the first time in her life, she believed those words. But outside, beyond the quiet clinic, her people were already stirring. They had thrown her away. They had left her to die. But if they learned she still breathed, they would not simply ignore her. The truth was revealed, and with it came a dangerous future. The day stretched long in the old vet's clinic. The alien girl rested quietly, her body still weak but stronger than before. Her glowing eyes opened now and then, each time searching for the human sitting by her side. He never left. He stayed, whispering gentle words or just holding her hand in silence. The vet moved around them, checking supplies, preparing more simple medicines, his face tight with worry but softened by something new. Respect. But Pia, she never lasted long. As the sun began to set, a sharp sound echoed outside the clinic. Heavy footsteps, strange voices. The human's head shot up instantly. He moved to the window, pulling the curtain back slightly. His heart sank. Outside, figures were gathering, her people, tall, armored, with glowing emblems across their chests. Their faces were hard, their eyes cold. They had come for her. The girl stirred on the bed, sensing the danger. Her weak voice broke the silence. They found me. The human's jaw tightened. Let them knock. I'm not giving you back. The vet's face darkened. He stepped closer, whispering harshly. If they want her, they won't ask twice. They'll take her by force, and they won't care what happens to you. But the human only shook his head. His fists clenched, and his voice was steady as stone. Then they'll have to go through me. The door shook with a heavy pound. A voice boomed from outside. Return what is ours. The defect does not belong in human hands. The human's anger flared. He shouted back, She's not yours. She's not a defect. She's alive, and she stays here. A cold laugh echoed outside. Do not pretend she is worth saving. She is a burden. Release her, and we will not harm you. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Her body trembled, but she pushed herself up slightly, clutching the blanket. She looked at the human with fear. You can't fight them. They'll kill you. He knelt beside her, taking her hand firmly. His voice was low, steady, filled with fire. I'm not afraid. I'd rather stand against them than abandon you. You are worth every risk. Her glowing eyes widened, searching his face. For the first time, she saw something she had never seen in anyone's eyes before. Unshakable belief. No pity, no disgust, only fierce protection. The pounding on the door grew louder. The vet grabbed a tool from his counter, his old hands trembling but ready. If they come through, we fight. But before the door broke, the girl spoke. Her voice was weak, trembling, but filled with something new, courage. Stop? Both men turned to her. She pulled herself upright with effort, her glowing veins shining brighter in the dim light. I must decide. This is my life, my choice. The human stared at her, surprised but proud. He nodded. Then make it. Whatever you choose, I'll stand by it. The door creaked as the aliens outside pushed harder. Their voices grew louder, demanding. But inside the clinic, time seemed to slow. The girl looked at the human, then at the door, then back at him. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. All my life they told me I had no worth, that I belonged to nothing, that I should disappear. But you... Her voice broke, but she forced the words out. You stayed. You held me when I was thrown away. You gave me hope. Her hand tightened around his. I don't belong to them anymore. I belong here, with you. The human's heart thudded. Relief and pride filled his chest. He smiled softly, but his eyes burned with fierce determination. Then that's your answer. He stood and turned toward the door, his voice loud and strong. Did you hear that? She made her choice, and it's not you. Silence fell outside for a moment. Then the voices roared with fury. The door rattled under their blows, but the human stood tall, ready to fight. The vet moved beside him, holding his tool tightly. But the door didn't break. Instead, after a long pause, the sound of footsteps retreated. The aliens left, their anger echoing in the distance. They had heard her words, her choice, and they knew they could not claim her anymore, not without tearing apart the fragile honor of their laws. The clinic fell silent again. The human turned back to the girl. She was crying softly, but her tears were no longer from despair. They were from freedom. He walked to her side and knelt again. You're safe. They're gone. They won't touch you again. She reached for his hand, holding it close. Her lips curved into a trembling smile. I chose, and I chose right. The vet standing nearby let out a long breath. His old eyes softened. I've seen many creatures fight for their lives, but tonight, I saw something greater. I saw someone choose where they belong. The human brushed a strand of her hair gently from her forehead. "And you belong with me. From now on, you're never alone." Her glowing eyes shone with warmth as she whispered, "Thank you." Outside, the city carried on, unaware of what had just happened in the small clinic. A girl once abandoned by her own people had chosen her place, not with those who threw her away, but with the one human who refused to let go. And for the first time in her life, she belonged.